Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far. So today is very exciting because finally I have my mitts on these new products from Dior. I have two of the new Birds of a Feather blushes, both shades of the new blush, and I also have finally in my paws one of the new Couture Luminizers that we have been waiting on here in the UK to arrive. They've been out in the US for weeks and they have just arrived here now in the UK. So I'm going to be trying these blushes, both of the new blushes and the luminizer on my face today, and giving you my first impression and my thoughts on these new Dior beauties. So if you do follow me over on my Instagram, I'll have the handle as always down below. But yeah, this has not been an easy journey, an easy launch for me. I had all kinds of problems ordering these products, and eventually I discovered that I had an issue, or Dior has an issue with my address. Because it's complicated, it's a whole thing. Without telling you my address, which I'm definitely not going to do, then I can't really explain the problem. But there's a problem, let's say, with my address, and therefore they won't allow me to order. They're trying to resolve it. But yeah, I had about 6 or 7 attempts to order these products before I finally got an order to work by ordering it to a friend's address, which was the only way I could get these products. So yeah, I know lots of people have had the same problem, and I called them up and spoke to them on the phone, and they're trying to resolve it if yours is similar to mine. But yeah, if you have an issue ordering these products, the way that I was able to get around it was, instead of using my Dior account, I checked out as a guest, and instead of using my home address, I used my neighbour's address and just had the products delivered there and went and got them. So that might be something that may help if you are having the same issue as me. But that's enough about that. They're here now, and that's all that matters. So as I said, I do have both shades of the new blushes. This is the shade Nude Glide, and then we have Coral Flight. I'm just going to dump out these brushes because, let's be honest, I'm not going to be using those. Here they are nice and close up. Now I have swatched these, but the embossing you can still see is absolutely beautiful on there. Nude Glide, of course, is this shade, this gorgeous shimmery nude shade, and then Coral Flight. Stunning. And I also picked up one of the luminizers that I know has been out in the US for a while but only just arrived here, and I chose the shade Rosewood Glow. This was just the one that appealed the most to me and seemed the most different from what I already have in my collection. And now that I've shown you them, I don't mind swatching, doing a decent swatch and destroying all of that lovely print for you. So we have Coral Flight, Nude Glide. That was a terrible swatch there, wasn't it? Build that one up a little. So here are the swatches. You can probably already tell from the swatches that the nude shade, Nude Glide, is a very shimmery blush. It quite reminds me of the Chanel shimmer formula, so it has that base and then some sparkle running through it. But the coral shade appears to be, at least in the swatch, pretty matte, maybe a sort of satin matte, but no shimmer in the coral shade. And there we have Rosewood Glow, which is the highlight shade. So pretty. Gorgeous. Okay, so I've just clipped my lion's mane. Is just going wild today because of the humidity. The humidity. I have to do that every time, I'm sorry. So I'm going to go in first with the highlight, just because that's the order I would normally do things. So yeah. Also, if my brows look a little bit wild, I just had them laminated again, so I daren't touch them. So they are just a little bit funky. They're just getting a little bit wild and living their best life. But yeah, I daren't touch them while they kind of embed. So I'm just using my Sonia G Fan Pro. This is kind of my favourite highlight blush. This is my favourite highlight brush. Whew, that is intense. Wow, okay. That is a highlight, isn't it? Definitely could have done with a lighter hand, I will say that. Oh, but do you know what? It blends so beautifully into the skin, even though I went in much too heavy. I just don't know. I think I thought it was going to be really subtle. I haven't really watched reviews of this because I've been waiting for it to arrive. Let's see how that does down the nose and whether it leaves any colour. Okay, so there we go. I've just worked to sort of blend that in a little bit. Definitely applied it a bit too heavy, which is making it leave that cast. But I wonder if I apply actually much lighter on this side, if it will be better and just melt into the skin a little more, which yeah, it definitely has. I think this would be one to apply with a fluffier, lighter brush, because it's not kind of a natural, it's not a skin tone colour, it's obviously quite rosy, which for me is quite different to sort of the natural tone of my skin, and therefore in order for it to not leave a cast that just kind of looks like a stripe of highlight, you need to use quite a light hand and keep it quite far back on the cheek. That's kind of the way to get around that. This is definitely not a good look. This side much better with a lighter hand and kind of kept higher up on the cheek, but blush will help it all melt together, so that's why I tend to do my blush second, or last actually, over the top of my highlight, because it will just blend everything together. But yeah, if you use a heavy hand and you're around my skin tone, this is going to leave a cast. It's just going to be it kind of is almost looking a little grey. This side looks much better. Formula wise, it's pretty smooth and it's a nice amount of highlight for me. It's not like this side is a little too much. This kind of side is kind of what I go for, but it is still not, right now it's not my favourite, put it that way. It's not my favourite. It's just okay. It's just okay. It's not blowing me away. It's a poem for you there, free. That's for free. So I'm going to go into the coral blush first because that's my jam, and I'm using my Sonia G Lotus Cheek. Wow, that's picked up a lot of product, so I'm going to give that a little tap. Definitely plenty of colour payoff here, and this is a light fluffy brush, this Sonia G Lotus Cheek brush, but you know what, actually that's blended out like an absolute dream. You know, I laid down a lot there just so we could see the colour, but it's just blended beautifully, so it does pick up a lot. It's quite a loose press blush there, so just be a little bit careful, because like I said, this is a fluffy brush, so if you had a denser brush then that might be a challenge. And that's just, yeah, that's really helped that highlight there just blend a bit better into the cheeks. Now it's looking quite nice. That's super pretty. I love that. Definitely goes nicely with my lips today. And now I'm using my other Sonia G, but this is the cheek from the Pro collection. And again, picks up a lot of product, this one, but I'm not so worried about this because this is definitely the lighter of the two and the more subtle of the two. Wow, this is pretty. This is giving me like Chanel elegance vibes, but it's definitely a little, shows up a little more on me than the Chanel. It's very glowy. It's definitely slightly texture enhancing because it is that like glowier formula that does enhance texture more than like a matte or a satin would, but it's not bad. It's just it doesn't look as smooth as on this side, but the colour is gorgeous. And actually I don't mind sacrificing a little bit of texture for a gorgeous glow and luminosity. For me, the payoff is worth it. If your priority is a smoother finish, then you may prefer the more matte formula of the coral, but for me, I do love a bit of glow on the cheeks, even if it comes at the expense of having more texture. So I just slightly pop my lights down a little to give you a better look of the colour. So this is obviously the coral side, and this is the side with the nude blush, Nude Glide and Coral Flight, both sides obviously with the same highlight. It's super pretty, you know, and I think actually it looks really lovely with this blush. I just need to work on my application a little. That old heavy-handedness that I tend to suffer from sometimes, but yeah, I mean, both sides are beautiful. This is definitely looking smoother on this side despite me over applying highlight, because this side, I don't know how well you'll be able to see, but you can definitely see more texture on this side, despite the lighter highlight application. Actually, has really warming to this highlight now on this side. It definitely doesn't look as good on this side because I over applied before I knew what I was dealing with. This side though, I think looks gorgeous. It's very much melted into the skin and is giving that perfect level of reflection that I like. I may need to pick up another shade of this. Maybe the shade is slightly off for my skin tone, but it's a gorgeous formula. I don't own any of the other luminizers. I have the quad, the original Backstage highlight quad, but I don't have any of their individual highlights. So this is my first kind of individual highlight from Dior, and on this side is gorgeous. Really loving that. Okay, so I've just taken a few minutes just to look closely in my mirror and get all my thoughts together. I love both of these blushes. I think they're beautiful. I think honestly they're very safe. You know, who doesn't love a gorgeous coral peachy? This is definitely leans on the more orange peachy scale as far as corals than it does pink. There's really no pink to me, as far as, you know, corals are kind of somewhere between the pink and the peach spectrum, aren't they? And this one definitely leans much more peachy, much more orange than it does pinky. So just bear that in mind. The nude shade, again, I mean, you just can't go wrong with this shade of blush. I feel like both of these blushes are very safe choices. And even though the coral shade can look quite bright and intimidating, I definitely went in, you know, heavily to see how much pigment there was, and it just blended out so easily that you don't really need to worry or stress about it being too much, because it's going to blend really, really easily if you do accidentally go in too heavy. But the nude shade is just going to be gorgeous. I sort of built it up a fair bit, but it's going to be a gorgeous, subtle, soft, natural, glowy cheek look. That I think they're both absolutely beautiful. I don't know that I have a favourite at this moment. You know me, like my tendency is to lean towards the glowier blush, and I think, you know, I just love this glowy, luminous cheek. I just think there's something so pretty about it, and it definitely reminds me of Chanel's Elegance, which is a hair too light for me to use, especially in summer. So that's kind of given me Chanel's Elegance, but a bit better suited for my summer skin tone, which is fantastic. This highlight I need to play about with a bit more. Actually, it was warming and warming on me at first. I was like, oh, I think the colour is off, and I definitely did myself dirty on this side. I definitely played myself by just going in too heavy and not really knowing what the formula was going to be like. But this side, it's looking really gorgeous, especially with the blush over the top. I think it's really melting in nicely. Perhaps I could have done with a different shade. Might have worked better for my skin tone, but I think the finish is gorgeous. With it applied nice and lightly on this side, I think it looked really, really nice and melted into the skin. Blended really well, especially where I made a mess of it over here. And yeah, it's just a really lovely shade. I've heard it compared to the Estee Lauder Modern Mercury, which is a very popular shade, but it's one that's kind of tricky and works on some skin tones much better than others. And I'm not sure this is the right tone for my undertones. It's just maybe running a bit cool on my skin tone. But yeah, formula wise, very, very beautiful. Definitely be interested in picking up some more shades of that formula, because I think it's definitely right up my street when I use it a bit more lightly, you know, nice and shiny and glowy and luminous, but not metallic and no real sparkle. It's more of a glow and a sheen, which is what I prefer. All of the products have that typical Dior fragrance to them. It's not super overwhelming, but I will say as soon as I opened the box, before I even got into the individual packages, I could smell the fragrance. So with the product just here, I can't smell it, but if I sniff and breathe it in, it's moderate. I can smell it. I can't smell the products now, they're on my cheeks, so that's just something to think about if you are bothered by fragrance. So I'd love to know if you've tried any of these products, especially the highlight, because I know they have been out quite a long time in the US. Maybe you have a suggestion of a shade that I might like to try, or that might work better for me than the Rosewood Glow. I think this one I was drawn to because it was a bit different, a bit more unique for my collection, but perhaps I was thinking about Nude Glow might be a better option for me skin tone wise. But with all the issues I had with my order, I thought let's just get hold of one and see how we go. So I hope you found this video helpful, and I'd love to see you in the next one. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye 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 bye.